Okay, so we had the dots on the outside, just kind of repeating here again. Dots on the outside that we put, the dot in the middle, and we trace the triangle. Okay, center of rotation does not move, it stays there. Okay, and we rotate until the dots match up again. You trace the triangle, and then you do it again. Okay, and keep on going until you wind back to the original, like your original first one that you drew is on top of the other one. Okay, so when you get done, it should look like a pretty little windmill.
It looks like one of those Turner things, you know, in the wind.
Oh yeah, the spin wheels.
It looks like a beautiful logo.
No.
I have no idea what that is.
Whatever.
Looks like
You could sure create a video game. Okay, so here's the question that we're leading to. So we did rotation. So remember we talked about rotation. Everything needs to move the same direction and the same distance. Otherwise you're not going to get, let's say, a triangle when you're going around. Now, we were tracing on this one. The next two we are not. We're going to use our compass and a straight edge to do the rotations. And a protractor, sorry, both. But on this particular one, and you're going to have this on book assignments and on worksheets, where they will have rotated the picture for you already. And they're going to ask you, what is the rotation from one angle or drawing, whatever it is, one pedal to the next pedal, or from one windmill blade to the next windmill blade? How do you think we could figure this out based on the drawing that you're looking at? Just what would one rotation would be. So looking at this one, and it really doesn't matter which, like say this was my starting one, okay? And my center of rotation. And so this one is the same triangle as this one. So one rotation is how many degrees? Yeah, go for it. What do you think? Go ahead, Nise.
Do you have a compass I left
A what?
A compass?
Oh, yeah. I thought you were answering my question.
45.
I'll get you. No.
60?
60. Genius. How'd you get that? Do you know?
I counted the dots, and then, because I know a circle's 360, so then I just divide by 6.
Look at that. Okay, so we are writing on here, okay, because we're going to attach this to it, but we're going to write on here how we figured this out, because this is a question that's going to be on your book assignments and on your worksheets, okay? So we know a full circle rotating all the way around is 360, okay? Okay, and that's going to be, let's write circle so that we know that's where that comes from. So 360. Okay, he counted the dots. You could have also counted what are the shapes? Triangles. So there's 6 triangles that are repeated. So we're going to go 360, and you're going to write 6 underneath it. Triangles, or if you want to put dots, you could do that as well. There won't always be dots on the outside. So what you're going to see pictures of, like on the book assignment, I think it's a windmill. And they'll have like 4 blades, okay? And they're going to ask you, all the blades are the same going around, and there's ones that have flower petals, and they're saying all the petals are exactly the same. Like, what is the rotation from? So you just need to make sure you're counting how many blades there are, divided into 360, how many petals there are, divided into 360. So that means one rotation is 60 degrees, okay? So 360 divided by whatever gets repeated, okay? So in this case, it was 6 triangles. Okay, the other thing that I want you to label, just so we have an example of this, is the dot that's in the middle that does not move. That did not change. It stayed in the exact same spot. We call that the center of rotation. And you're going to hear me say that over and over and over again. So you always have a center of rotation. So that's the one that doesn't move. Okay, so compass and something to write with. You're going to be using those for several sections, so make sure you're like bringing them.
What if mine doesn't get small enough to what I need to do?
Do what?
Never mind.
Okay, so we are going. There's some that get left behind up front, so you can just use those. Just make sure you put it back, please, just so other classes have some to use. Okay, so we are going to rotate this triangle. We're only going to do it once, okay? And we're going to, and on your worksheets, sometimes they'll say clockwise or counterclockwise. I don't care which direction you go because I will have both of the drawings when we check them, okay? So if it confuses you, like I think I went clockwise with one and a counterclockwise with the other, then obviously you would not wind up with the right picture, right? So it should be the same picture. So again, I don't care which direction you're going, okay? So we are going to rotate this 50 degrees. So I'm going to put on here 50 degrees. And what we're doing is we're rotating each of the points, okay? And then we'll draw the triangle at the end, okay? So in order to find 60 degrees, we need to create an angle, okay? So first step in having an angle is to have a what? Straight line. Okay, so I'm going to move O first. So you draw a line out to, I need a pencil. Draw a line from the point you're moving to the center of rotation. Anybody want to guess when we're like talking about angles? Because that's a side. What part of the angle do you think the center of rotation is called? So we have sides. I'm going to draw an angle. And this one doesn't move. It stays the same. Yeah.
Vertex?
Vertex. He is on a roll. Okay. I have proof of this, by the way. You'll be on YouTube. Okay. So it's the vertex. So this one's not moving. It's the one that we're moving is O. Okay. So we want to measure 50 degrees. Okay. So the vertex, remember, goes at the center of your protractor. Okay. So the center of rotation goes at the center of your protractor. So whatever protractor you have, like mine's the punched out hole. Some of you had the upside down T. Okay, so you're going to line that up.
Mrs. Huff, do you have another protractor? Because I didn't see him up there. Thank you.
Okay, so I have my angle lined up. Okay, so I have my angle lined up starting at 0, and I'm measuring 50 degrees. Now remember, on a protractor, there's two sets of 50s. So there's a 50 that's on this side, right? And then there's a 50 that is on this side. Well, if I line that up to the vertex, that 50 would make it an obtuse angle, right? So it's not that 50 that I'm choosing. I'm choosing the 50 that's on this side. Because if I line that up to my vertex, that makes an acute angle, and 50 is acute. Okay, so just somewhere on your paper, you're going to mark where that 50 is at. So I'm just making a mark on my paper so that I can line my protractor up. So I marked where 50 was at. We good? Okay, so I need to draw the other side of my angle. So I'm going to use the straight edge of my protractor. I'm going to line it up to that and back to the vertex. Okay, can I move my protractor? Everybody's good up to this point? Okay, so I'm lining it up straight edge to the vertex, okay, so which is C, the center of rotation, and out to that mark that I just made. And I don't need to go all the way out because I'm moving O. So O is not going to be all the way out there. It's going to be the same distance away from the center of rotation. Okay, we good to there? Okay, so I'm moving O from one side of my angle to the other side of my angle. So this is now where the compass comes in, okay, because it's a little bit more exact on measuring. Okay, so I put my compass point at the vertex, which is the center of rotation. And O is what I'm moving, so I'm putting the pencil on O. Okay, I'm moving it from one side of my angle to the other side of my angle, and I just make a mark across that other side that I just made. I don't need to make a huge arc. Good? Okay, so we talked about, really quickly, the vocab word. So this is my pre-image. This is my image. So I need to write it as O with a apostrophe or O prime mark. Okay, so O prime. Okay, because this was my first image, my pre-image, and this is my image. So the difference between the two, it just has a prime mark. Okay, we're good?
Does that mean it's better?
It is. It's at its prime. Okay, so starting over. So now I'm moving L. So I need to draw from L to the center of my rotation, okay, which doesn't move. So I'm moving L now. Okay, so I'm going to draw a line from the center of rotation out to L. Okay, so I have a line drawn from the center of rotation out to L. And we're going to repeat the process. So I need to draw the other side. So I need to find and measure where 50 is at. So remember, the center of rotation always goes at the center of the protractor. Okay, so I'm lining it up, and make sure whatever 50 you chose, you're using the same 50 going around, because that means you're going the same direction. Okay, we good? I just have mine lined up. I haven't marked it yet. So I just have C lined up to L. Okay, and then I'm going to mark on my paper where the 50 is at. We good? So my C is lined up to L. I marked where 50 was at. Okay, so from that mark, I'm going to draw it back to where? To the center of rotation, back to C. So that mark that I just made at 50, I'm going to use my straight edge and draw back to my vertex, which is the center of rotation. Okay, so right here, and don't shade, I'm just shading. Right here is my angle that was 50 degrees, right? Okay, so I need to move L from one side of my angle over to that line that I just drew. Okay, so this is where we use our compass, okay, to measure. L is what I'm moving, so my pencil goes on L. Okay, so I'm measuring that segment from C to L. And now I just move and make a mark across that last segment that I just drew. And now I'm going to label that as L what?
L
Prime. Good, L prime. So L prime. Okay, we good? Okay, now we'll start over for the next one. So I'm moving B. Okay, so I'm going to draw a line from what? B to C. Good. So the one that I'm moving from B to C. Okay. I hope so. Okay. So now where do I line my protractor up with? So the center of rotation is which? C. So it goes at the center of my protractor. Okay, so the center of rotation goes to the center of protractor. Don't like flip it and put the center on B. The center is on C. Okay, you line it up and make sure you're using the same 50 you've been using. Remember, we haven't gone over here because then that would be going the other way. Okay, so 50, I mark on my paper someplace where 50 is at. Okay, so my B is down here. Okay, so now I'm going to draw a line back to C, which is probably pretty close to a line that you already have for L, if you did it right.
With me, I got the exact same thing.
Yeah, on that same line. Okay, what's my last step?
You connect the dots.
Not yet. I haven't done that yet. I just made a line for where 50
What
was
if
at.
we need to do B then?
Okay, so I need to do B prime. So I got to measure from C to B. Okay, and then I'm going to, it's pretty close to where the L is at, the letter L. If you're right, at least mine was, measuring to B. Okay, and that's going to be my B prime. Okay, now we get to connect. Now, because we have, some of you will find shortcuts. I'm not going to talk about that because I don't want people to get lost and lose track of what they're doing. But you're going to connect your O prime, B prime to your L prime to make your triangle. And then what I want you to do, oh, you're connecting where you have your O prime, L prime to B prime. Okay, so to be really nice to the people that are going to grade our papers, and you have so many lines and stuff that are drawn in there when you do these creations, what I want you to do is just shade it so that they know that they're looking at this triangle right here, because technically we made a bunch of different triangles where they all crossed at. Okay, so just to make it obvious for people to, when they put their overhead over the top of it to check it, shade your new creation, your image.
Dave, that's very kind of us.
I know, isn't that nice? Enough of that kindness. Okay, we good? Okay, we're gonna try it again.
Yes.
Okay, here we are. So K this time is the center of rotation. Okay, it's actually on the shape. So K doesn't move, it stays there. It's really these three that end up moving. Okay, so some of your drawings won't have labeling, okay? So that's fine. If it helps you to keep track of which ones you created, then label them, okay? We're not doing any notation or anything like that, like you have to write it out. So I am, just so you know which one I'm doing, I'm gonna label mine A, B, C. You don't have to, okay?
What degrees are we rotating?
Okay, I think we are going to stick with 50. Okay, so K is the center of rotation. So that means the line is already drawn to the first one I'm going to move. So I'm going to move A first, this one right here. So if you didn't label it, just know which one I'm moving. Okay, so I'm going to move that one first. So there's already a line drawn from the center of rotation out to the one that you're moving. Okay, so just make sure when you line it up on your protractor, I'm not going to put A at the center of my protractor. I'm putting K at the center of my protractor. And there's already a line drawn for me. Okay, now, but this time we're using the 50 that's on the right side, right? Because 50 is acute. We don't want to use the 50 where we're using on that other one, okay? So I'm going to mark where 50 is at. Okay, so my 50 was right there. Okay, and then I'm going to draw a line back to A or to K? K, because K is the center of rotation. It's my vertex of the angle that I just constructed. We're good? Okay, so now I'm moving A. I named it A. You didn't have to name it, but I'm moving A now to that line. Okay, so I measure from K to A, the length of that segment, and then swing it across that line I just made. So that would be my A prime. We good? Yes. Okay, so you, with your protractor, okay, the center of your protractor, whatever your center is, if it's a punched out hole or upside down T, you're going to line it up with K. Okay, and then the line that you have at the bottom of your protractor is going out to A. So it would look like that. Okay, so then I marked where 50 was at. So we're going to use the 50 on this side because 50 is acute. Did you mark that? Where 50 was at? Okay, so now you're going to use your straight edge and draw from that mark that you just made back to the vertex, which is K. So I lined it up with that mark I made and drew a line back to K. You got that? Okay, so now I'm moving this one. So I measure with my compass the length from K to A. Got that? Okay, so now you're just going to swing, keep the point at K. It's just A that you're moving, okay? And then you would swing it across to label the next one. And that's your A prime, which really isn't the letter that's on there. It's just helping me keep track of what to connect. You good? Okay, so now we're doing it for B. So again, you can draw a line from K to B, Okay, but I'm not going to on mine because I have this line that's on the bottom of my protractor. Okay, so this is like some of the shortcuts where I don't have to draw. It's one less line I have to draw. So I just know that the center of my protractor needs to be lined up with K, and it's going out to B. So the line that I have on my protractor is really the line that's going out to B. You can draw it if you want to. You don't have to, okay? As long as you have it lined up with the point that you're moving. Okay, then I'm measuring 50 degrees. So I'm using the same 50 for all of my drawings. So I'm marking where 50 is at. Good for that? Okay, so then now I just need to draw the other side of my angle. So now I'm just going to take my straight edge and I'm going to draw from that mark that I just made back to the center of my rotation, which is K, or the vertex. Okay, and I'm moving my middle point, which I labeled it as B. Okay, I'm going to measure from K to B. And then I'm going to now swing it across that new line that I just made, and that's my B. Okay, the last one. Do I need to draw a line to the last one I'm moving? No, the line's already drawn for me. Okay, so I'm lining it up. I'm moving C. Okay, I mark where 50 is at, which is pretty close to where A is going to be. Okay, so I marked where the 50 was at, and I'm going to draw a line back to my vertex. So almost where A is at. And then I just mark where C is at on that new line. And then connect my A prime to my B prime to my C prime, and then shade your drawing.
This has actually been fun.
It is if you can remember all the steps that you'll. Oh, weird. Fun math. That's like you know you're probably jinxing yourself.
Oh no.